So I would like to welcome at this moment on stage Mr. Roger Hamilton. Roger.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks very much. Good afternoon. This is my first time to Prague, and it's a beautiful city. So I am really excited to be here today. It's a very exciting day, and I have come from the other side of the world with a message. So to start this message off, I am going to take you back 15 years to my home in Bali. I have a resort in Bali where we run entrepreneur retreats, and in the resort we have a library. And it's one of those libraries where when people come in, they actually leave books as much as take books away. So as a result of that, there's always a new surprise of some sort. So I walk in the library one day, and I sit down, and I pick up a book that someone left behind. They just come from India. And I have never found this book again. But when I picked it up, I could see it was an old Indian book, and I opened it. And inside there was a story. And the story is about today. It's about changing the way you think. And the story was a story about a raindrop. So the story goes that the raindrop is flying out from the sky, first time it's ever been a raindrop, and it flies down and goes plop onto a jetty. The jetty is right next to the sea. And this is the first time the raindrop has ever been a raindrop. So it looks around and it goes, I'm a raindrop. This is amazing. I'm a raindrop. This is fantastic. And it looks around and it sees other raindrops as well. And it goes, this is amazing. How great to be alive being a raindrop. You know, at some point we get that sense of self-awareness and that we're not alone. And as a raindrop is there getting excited about this experience of being a raindrop, it notices that the rain isn't all hitting the jetty. In fact, there's some raindrops that are actually going right past the jetty into the sea, plop, and disappearing, never to be a raindrop. So suddenly it has fear. Suddenly it realizes this concept called mortality, and it gets very, very scared. And it goes, oh, I really, really hope that I don't end up in the sea like all those other raindrops who never even get to experience being a raindrop. And as it's thinking that, the wind blows, and it sees some of the drops on the jetty are flying off the jetty into the water, and it suddenly realizes, I'm not safe even here on the jetty. So it decides that what it's going to do is it's going to try and get as small as possible, so it's not going to be caught by the wind. So now it's actually stuck down, trying to not get caught by the wind, and noticing that those who plop up and actually become bigger get flown away into the sea, and it goes, well, at least I'm now safe. And some of us live our lives that way as well, where we're just trying to not play too big in case we end up disappearing. And as it's there, and it's feeling pretty good about itself at this point, the sun comes out. And when the sun comes out, it notices even the drops on the jetty who are holding on are disappearing. And so now it's like, oh no, even if I stay here, I'm also going to potentially disappear. So now it has this existential crisis. Do I stay here and disappear, or do I jump and disappear? And it thinks about it and thinks, well, I know for sure by staying here, I will be gone and I'll be nothing. I'll be zero. But if I jump, I don't actually know what happens when I hit the ocean. Maybe something else might happen. Maybe I'll still be a drop in the ocean. So it decides at the end of the day, given that it really doesn't know, it's going to take the leap of faith. And so it takes another deep breath in. It says, right, this might be my very last breath. It lifts itself up as high as it can get, ready to now just let go of everything it's ever known. And as it lifts itself up and the wind blows, it flies off the jetty and it braces for any eventuality, including the fact that it might end up being nothing, and then it hits the water. And when the raindrop hits the water, something magical happens. It suddenly realizes it is no longer a raindrop. It's become the whole sea. This power of zero, which is what I'm going to be sharing, this power of zero, which is that every one of us inside ourselves has got this aspect where we are nothing, but that we're also everything. Can I see a show of hands of the people here in the room who know that you have a power inside yourself which is still a long way from its full potential? Can I see a show of hands who knows that? See, we know we have that inside, and most of us, we play it far too small. And it starts with our mind. Today is about innovative thinking, but the real question is, how big are you thinking? And I'm going to share with you a number of stories, and I'm going to share with you a message which is linked to what's happening in the world because of exponential growth and the fact that the fastest growing companies are run by people who have a very, very different way of thinking, where they're starting with this power of zero. So before I talk about this power of zero, what I'd like everyone to do for a moment is to just have a look at this image. This is called in China, Wuji. Wuji means everything and nothing. It's also a circle, which is the same symbol as 0. I'd like you to take a moment with the person next to you, and I'd like you to, in a moment, within just 5 seconds, tell that person how many sides you think a circle has. I mean, does it have no sides? Does it have 1 side, 2 sides, more than 2 sides, infinity sides? How many sides do you think a circle has? Turn to the person next to you and tell them right now how many sides. Go ahead. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, I know we are an intelligent group in the room today, so let's just take a quick poll on the room. Can I see, if you think about what you just said, and it may be the person you shared said something different, can I see a show of hands of people who thinks a circle has no sides? No sides, 0 sides. Okay, some hands up for that. Hands up who thinks a circle has 1 side. 1 side? All right, some hands up for 1 side. Hands up who thinks it has 2 sides. 2 sides, some hands for 2 sides. What about 3 or more sides? 3 or more sides? Okay, even more hands. Infinity sides, even more hands. We just went through every single possibility of how many sides a circle has from nothing to infinity, and we had hands up for every single one. How are we going to solve complicated things like world peace if we can't even agree on how many sides a circle has? Well, it turns out, because I went to Cambridge University, which is a very learned place to learn very important things, that I know exactly how many sides a circle has, so I will now tell you the actual answer is 2. A circle has an inside and an outside. What I believed of today is about talking about the inside. Did you notice that if you are looking at a football pitch, if you're looking at a cricket pitch, any game, the people on the inside have a very different responsibility to the game than the people on the outside. The people on the outside can go get a hot dog, come back. The people on the inside actually are committed to the game even before the game started. The difference of someone on the outside who's all working for the outcome, which is how much are they aiming for their goals, as opposed to the people who are actually playing the game, the ones on the inside who are simply focusing on income, which is how much is incoming their way, who's passing them the ball. Outside is all about hard work, it's about output, whereas on the inside it's about input, which is about your connections and what's coming your way. And more importantly, in Cambridge we used to have a joke about Oxford, where we used to say that in Oxford it was the city of dreaming spires, but Cambridge was the city of inspiring dreams. And the idea that on the outside is very different from the inside, because it's in the inside you inspire, whereas it's on the outside that you're going to end up expiring. We are living in a world of technological unemployment. Our children are getting trained for jobs that will not be there. The majority of the world is on the outside. Whether you're on the inside or outside has everything to do with deciding on the power of 0. This concept that this nothing is both a nothing and it's an everything. I want to share with you a quote from someone that you all know. This here is Elon Musk. He said this exactly 10 years ago. 10 years ago was 2008. It was the beginning of the global financial crisis. He said, my proceeds from PayPal were $180 million. I put $100 million in SpaceX, $70 million in Tesla, and $10 million in Solar City. I had to borrow money for rent. Elon Musk actually had less money than you or me 10 years ago. And 10 years later, he's worth $18 billion, and he's transforming the world with SpaceX, with Tesla, with Solar City. What happened? How does someone actually get so fast in their exponential growth, in their thinking and in their growth compared to others, where some of us are still doing something similar or earning something similar to what we're earning 10 years ago as well? This comes down to the power of 0. The power of 0 times 6 powers of the times 0 is the difference of 1 in 1 million. I wrote an article, and I just want to kind of paraphrase some of the key things about this article when it comes to this power of 0. And this here is about the monk moment. So the monk moment is many great entrepreneurs have a great moment where they have lost everything. Monks create this situation intentionally through vairagya, where they give up all money, all possessions. Many entrepreneurs end up in the same situation unintentionally. I know many entrepreneurs who run non-profits. They're just unintentional non-profits. They were actually meant to make money, but we actually were so busy working hard on our purpose that we forgot about the profit. So one of the biggest things is what happens when you actually get down to nothing. He lost $180 million and went into debt, but he wasn't the only one. Steve Jobs lost all of Apple. Disney lost pretty much all of Disney, went bankrupt before he started again. Monks call this state that comes after giving up everything moksha, which means liberation from the illusion. You only truly live for something when you know what you're going to die for. And so my question to you is, what happens if you go back to zero? What if tomorrow you just had nothing? Would you actually be freed up from the past that you're holding on to? Would it actually allow you to be someone quite different to the person you are tomorrow? And if you're wondering, is it possible to actually just achieve that with where you're at today? I want you to think about this for a moment. Is it possible there is someone out there today who is currently earning a lot more than you, having 10 times more impact than you're having on the planet, who is achieving 10 times more than you're achieving, who is not as smart as you, who is not as talented as you, who's probably not as good looking as you, who's probably a lot younger than you, which means they're actually maybe 10, 20 years younger, and today they woke up already generating 10 times the impact that you're generating today? Hands up who thinks that's possible. Who thinks that's possible that would be happening? 100% that they're out there doing that. So what is it they're doing differently? Simply by the fact that they don't think they have anything to lose. Because it's only when you actually open yourself up to that possibility that you have nothing to lose, that you have everything to gain. Here's another part of this as well. Many of the greatest entrepreneurs unintentionally find themselves in a state of betting everything on their dream. But when you have nothing to lose, you have infinite possibility. This is a quote from Steve Jobs, which is about near death. Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I'll ever encounter to help me make the big choices in life. Almost everything, all external expectations, or pride, or fear of embarrassment or failure, these things just fall away in the face of death, leaving only what is truly important. Remembering that you're going to die is the best way I know to avoid the trap of thinking you have something to lose. If we all start from that space, you suddenly open up full potential, just like that drop. And I'm going to share with you a bit of a journey that we've been on around the world within the entrepreneur movement. It starts with, well, if you actually were to let go of something, what is it you should let go of? Here is one of the two fundamental things that happens in our brain when it comes to recall. It's the thing that most of us hold on to, which is the past. And the reason we do that is because past recall is called memory. And we go to school to memorize. So we are so good at memorizing that every day we wake up as a person we were yesterday, wondering why it's so difficult to get to our future. All of the most successful entrepreneurs in the world do not look at their past recall. They look at their future recall. Their past means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. You know, Elon Musk says, I don't even bother looking at resumes. I want to know what problem can someone solve today. And so in your case, your past means nothing to do with what you can achieve in the future. In fact, until your vision, which is future recall, is stronger than your past, your future will always be weaker than your ability to get into your past. The moment you actually say, well, if I don't think so much about memory and I actually practice vision of where I want to be in the future, of what kind of life I want to live, you collect yourself around other people and you then end up with infinite possibility. In my experience, that's been true. And the most important thing about the vision is 4 factors, 4 zeros, which add together to create everything. So what are these 4 zeros? It's from a concept that goes back 5,000 years called Ikigai. Ikigai is the basis of your own self-awareness. Ikigai is the basis of saying that every one of us has got one thing, which is what we love. That's called our passions. We have one thing, which is what the world needs. That's called our purpose. We have one thing, which is our talents, what we're great at. And then we also have one thing that we're going to get paid for, which is our business model. And today, a job is not the best way to get paid for something anymore. It's being an entrepreneur, but only if it's something that fits your purpose, your passions, and your talents. So a large part of my journey, ever since I read that story of the drop, is to have changed my life to be focusing at supporting entrepreneurs to find their own Ikigai. We now have got a number of tests that we run across the world. The passion tests, we partnered up with Chris and Janet Atwood, who have a best-selling book called The Passion Book. So we've had hundreds of thousands of people go through the passion test to find out where their passions are. This is now taught in schools. We have got now the purpose test linked to 17 United Nations global goals, where these 17 goals are all focused at actually getting achieved by the year 2030. And when you take the purpose test, you find out which of those goals is your number one goal. And then we also have our wealth dynamics test, as was mentioned earlier, where we find out which of the 8 paths is your path to actually get paid at your full potential. And at the same time, what are the stages of enterprise which you're at the moment, from a startup all the way through to multiple businesses, and who are the people you need to support you at every level as well. All of this information I'm not going to share about today because it's more about the message I want to share than this information. Some of you I will be seeing in 2 days' time, because I'll be here in Prague, where we're actually running our Entrepreneur Fast Track, where we're going through the impact meter, which is how do you 10 times your impact at every level, from 1 customer to 10 customers, all the way up to 1 million customers within your company. And it's the pathway that every exponential business has taken, where it only really takes these 7 steps to be able to impact 1 million people. And we have examples of people that have actually done that. In fact, within our own network, we have got a series of examples where we have actually built exponential businesses. This here is Genius U. It's an online platform which we started about 3 years ago to support the entrepreneur movement. When we kicked it off, we thought, well, if we could have 100,000 people using this would be good. What's actually happened is that we've actually grown to a point where we now have over 750,000, and we're going to hit about 1.5 million entrepreneurs this year from 200 different countries that are all interconnecting with each other, sharing learning, sharing connections, sharing their purpose with each other, and then getting into projects where they can go out there and change the world. We now have over 1,000 people every day who are joining this platform, and this has become a tech startup, which is now one of the largest in Asia, based in Singapore, and we now have got presence in over 20,000 cities around the world, including now here in Prague, which I'm really excited about. Another company, to give you another example of the fact that any business model can actually support whatever you are caring most about, and for me, it's about the entrepreneur movement. Another model is something we have called Entrepreneur Resorts. So this is another of my companies within my group where we said there has to be a home to the movement, in the same way that there was a home to the entire freedom movement that happened in the Spring of Nations in Europe, in the same way that there was a movement that kicked off the Renaissance, which happened not in the cafes of Paris, but in the art schools of Florence. We're now looking at a movement which is taking place in co-working spaces around the world, which have gone from 1 to 20,000 within just the last 5 years. And at the same time, we've now brought this to paradise locations around the world, where we have resorts where we run accelerators, where we've got a listed company, which we listed last year, with 5 resorts, 50 beach clubs, growing around the world in paradise locations where we can then have an impact on the world as we go as well. Here's my Bali resort, which is where I read the story of the drop. Here is our South Africa resort, where we now run entrepreneur programs next to the elephants and the lions. And all of this is for one reason, which is for the power of zero. This nothing, the fact that something can be nothing and everything at the same time, when we take that and take the Chinese element of splitting it into multiples, and just keep on splitting it, we end up with a different zero which becomes everything, and it becomes our home. And we are living at a time of greater opportunity and greater threat than ever before. Our planet is a zero, it's a dot, it's a nothing. This first image was taken of the planet from one of the Apollo rockets in 1972. And it kicked off what was called the Gaia movement, where we all saw ourselves as a humanity for the first time. One person who was one of my big mentors at Cambridge was Buckminster Fuller. And when he saw this, he says, we are all crew on Spaceship Earth. So now's the time for us to go out there and make that difference. He said that the only way for us to make that difference, to actually be able to achieve the impact that we want to have in the world, is to turn it into something called the world game. The world game is the idea that all of us collectively can make the world work for 100% of humanity in the shortest possible time through spontaneous cooperation without ecological offense or the disadvantage of anyone. Everyone thought, this is a great idea. Why not create a game where we can all win the game by solving all the world's challenges together? How do we play the game? He says, I'll tell you how to play the game. And then he died. So when he died, he never left any rules for the game. And we have now gone for another 30 years figuring out how do we play this game. I want to share with you the message, which is that the World Game is going to be starting in 2018. We are exactly 12 years away from 2030, which is when we want to achieve all the United Nations global goals. We are setting up a game where 70,000 people, 10% of our network, are going to be playing this game in 2018. We're going to be starting on the 10th of June, and we're going to be finishing on 10th of December, 6 months, where we're going to be making giving impacts all around the world. We're going to be linking them to all of the different United Nations global goals, collaborating together as well. And the 17th of December is the 70th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. It has only been one generation that we have treated ourselves as a global humanity. And we are at that cusp of actually now saying, what do we do with that information? So we're going to be launching this game around the world. We'll be launching it here in Prague as well. We're going to be having city rankings in terms of how many impacts we're having on every one of those 17 goals. And I do hope you'll come and play that game with us as we play it. This is what Buckminster Fuller says, which I totally agree with. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. When I was there 15 years ago, and I said, well, is my wealth, is my success an opportunity, which means maybe it will happen, or an obligation, which means it must happen? Like, are my great-grandchildren going to look back at my life and your life and say, what were we doing during that time when we could have made that difference? at that point, when I saw that, I saw me achieving the success and flow that allows me to impact other people is not a maybe, it's a must. Because how dare I be someone who has been gifted the gift of life and not reach my full potential? How dare you be someone who is given this incredible gift of being everything and squander it? If you take that seriously, and then you say, well, then let's go out there and play that game, take today as a day to inspire you to play it. Because if not us, then who? And if not now, then when? Thank you.
Roger.
Thank you.
Roger, thank you. I hope you can hear me now. Thank you very much for sharing with us the power of zero. You know, I found out that you established the first company when you were at age 20, 21?
Yes, 18.
18?
When I was at university, yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I found that one of the first companies you established was Footprint, which pioneered pioneered the pictorial maps.
That's right.
Then you grew up the business into 42 different cities.
Yeah.
You know, when did you first realize that to get employed is not a route for you, that you will work on your own? When was it?
Well, actually, it was after reading Buckminster Fuller. It was when I was at university, because I learned about Buckminster Fuller because I studied architecture, and he also studied architecture. Okay. And I realized, wow, you know, if you're going down a linear path, you know, building buildings is one thing, but building businesses where you can actually accelerate your path. And remember, this was in the 1980s, early 1990s. There was no real stories of those days of entrepreneurs that where they are today. There was no Forbes 100 list or anything like that. So it was like those early days, but it was just realizing that some models will never give you exponential growth, whereas entrepreneurship can, and that's what made me become an entrepreneur.
All right. There are many people today living like a digital nomads, right? They are commuting from one place to another. Yeah. They are not really rooted to a single place. You lived the whole life like that, like Hong Kong, Scotland, Papua New Guinea. What the word home means for you?
Well, I want to mention something about digital nomads first of all. If we go back 10 years, I think there were three very different types of entrepreneurs. I think there were the fast growth entrepreneurs, who usually were often Silicon Valley or some city, who would feel it would be the wrong thing to do to go sit on a beach. You would have digital nomads that already started off, who wanted freedom as their number one value, as opposed to growth, who would hate the idea of being in a city, but they'd want to go travel, but they also didn't think they were actually right to have a fast growth business. And then you have social entrepreneurs, who are people who wanted to make an impact in the world, where impact was their number one, but the problem with them was they didn't think they should ever make money, because then they'd feel guilty, because they should actually be poor and giving all money away. We have seen the merger of all three of them today. So today it's possible to have a fast growth company, travel the world, and have an impact all at the same time. And we're finding technology allows us to do that. And for me, that's what this is about for me, which is why, you know, every time I see a picture of the planet and talking about where is home, for me, home is the planet, and the fact that every one of us can learn so much more by actually traveling and connecting to others than staying in one place.
Absolutely. Roger, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Thank you.
Do you have the clicker?
Oh, clicker. I do somewhere.